Good afternoon, my brothers and sisters in Christ. I hope everybody is well today, this fine Thursday. I just wanted to come on and give a quick message. I wanted to read 1 Samuel 16:7. But the Lord said to Samuel, "Do not look at how handsome or tall Eliab is. I have not chosen him." The Lord does not look at people in the way that people do. People look at the face and the body of a person, but the Lord sees what they are like inside. So people judge according to the outside, what's visible, but God chooses us according to what's inside, what He knows. People see our position, God sees our purpose. People will see our weakness, God will see what His power can do through us. People see where you come from, God can see where He's taking you to. If you go through the Bible, there's plenty of different examples in the Bible. Look at David. When Samuel was looking for the next king, David wasn't even thought of. He wasn't even brought into the room. He was outside with his sheep. His brothers had the look, the appearance, the age, the position. But David was the one that God was looking for, his heart. David was not wearing a crown when God chose him. He was carrying a shepherd's staff, Before David ever stood before people as king, God had seen him in a secret place. You don't need people to recognize what God has already recognized. People can overlook you and still not stop God's purpose for you. So don't let them do that for you. Look at Gideon in Judges. God said to him, "The Lord is with you, brave soldier." Gideon didn't feel like a brave soldier. He felt weak. But God wasn't speaking according to Gideon's feelings. God was speaking according to what He knew Gideon could become through him. Sometimes we say, "Oh, God, look how weak I am," or "I can't do this because I'm not strong enough." But God says, "Look how strong I am. Find your strength from within me." Your weakness doesn't frighten God. His strength is greater than your weakness. You've got Joseph. Joseph had a promise, but he ended up in prison. If people looked at Joseph then, they would have seen a prisoner. But what did God see? He saw purpose. The prison changed Joseph's location, but it didn't cancel God's plan. No. When God's appointed time came, Joseph went from the prison to Pharaoh's palace. Never, ever, ever confuse your present season on what you're going through right now with your final destination that God has for you. Because God can be preparing something in you before He changes what's around you. God often does His deepest work where people can't see it. David was in the field before he got the throne. Joseph had the prison before he had the palace. Moses had the wilderness before leading Israel. Gideon had fear before victory. Mighty man of Valor. Your hidden season is not necessarily a wasted season. God's just preparing the heart before revealing the purpose within you. People want to see the crown. They want to see. But God develops the person who will carry the crown. People want the position. But God's developing your character required to maintain the position. People want to be seen. But God asks whether you will remain faithful when nobody sees us but Him. Your obedience. God doesn't need approval. No human approval whatsoever. What God has purpose is not created by people's opinions. God did not make David God's chosen king. People did not make David God's chosen king. God chose David. Okay? People did not give Joseph his purpose. God had already given Joseph the dream. Gideon's family did not determine his calling. God called him, So rejection cannot automatically mean God rejected you. No. Being overlooked doesn't automatically mean God's overlooked you. No. Being in a low position doesn't mean that you have no purpose. Appearing weak doesn't automatically mean God cannot see you. No. God looks at your heart. What I'm telling you now isn't just me simply saying, "Oh, God's going to promote you." No. The deeper message behind it is, when you look at yourself, what does God see when He looks inside of me? Because God told Samuel, "The Lord looks at the inside. So the question isn't only, when will God change my position? No. It's, Lord, what are you changing inside my heart, to make me ready for my position? So when you pray, before asking God for a greater influence, ask Him for humility, before asking for your platform, ask Him for obedience, before asking to be seen by people. Learn to be faithful when only God can see you. Just remember, people may see a shepherd, okay, but God may be preparing a king. People may see weakness, but God may be preparing a warrior. People may see a prisoner, but God may be preparing a leader. People may see your present circumstances, but God sees your entire journey before the journey's begun. So don't build yourself and your identity around people's opinions on you. Don't allow your present position to define you, because that's not you. Don't allow weakness to convince that God can't work through you. Don't chase recognition from people when what matters most is right before God. Let God work on the inside, so the outside will flourish. Because when your heart is surrendered to Him, He can accomplish His purpose for a life that belongs completely to Him. Okay? So back to 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 7. Summarize it up. The man looks on the outside, but God looks on the inside. And what God sees in secret matters more than what people applaud in public. Okay? So take that to heart and have a lovely evening.